Perfect. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 4:31 p.m. on April 22nd, 2025. And call the roll. Vice Chair Donovan.
Present.
Let's see here. Commissioner Fribley. Is absent, right? Commissioner Swenson Harris is absent. Commissioner Helmer.
Present.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Commissioner Howard.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
And I am present. We're actually going to go around because we have some new faces. Councilor Doyle is present with us as well. And we'll go around the room and just introduce ourselves very briefly before we get started. So I'll start. My name is Elise Josephson. I am the chair of the commission. I have been on the commission since 2020 is when I first was appointed. I enjoy the work here. I think it's really exciting to get to preserve the history, advance, especially the working class history of Springfield. My grandfather was a SAR, not here, but in Southern Oregon. And so especially the logging history is of interest to me. And then, of course, the architectural history that is unique to our Washburn. Okay.
And Kirk Donovan, and I'm retired, but I still teach at Lane. And I'm a vice chair and just happy to be here. Help.
I'm Julie Whalen. I'm a local contractor. I own the business Willamette Window Restoration. And I also am excited about the Washburn District and its blue collar history. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about living in this area. The reason that I'm here tonight is it's Historic Preservation Month in May, and I'm hoping to put on a hands-on workshop. I have a kind of a rough draft here for you guys to look over, but I need your help. I feel like I need city support, and by that I'm hoping, well, anyway, we'll talk more about that, but that's who I am. That's why I'm here.
I'm Victoria Doyle, and I'm born and raised here in Springfield. I was born at McKenzie Willamette and been in Lane County my entire life. I've been involved in politics since about 2008. I was on the city council down in Cottage Grove. Started out because I was complaining about something that the city was spending money on, and one of the councilors overheard me and said, well, you're going to complain about it, you should probably get involved. And so I got on the budget committee, and that's where that started. And so here in Springfield, I started on budget committee and the Community Development Advisory Committee, and my husband made me promise that I wouldn't get on city council again. And then an opening came up, and Marilee Woodrow called me and said she wanted me to run, and my husband said, okay. So here I am.
I'm Tom Sievers. I am the senior planner and staff liaison for the Historic Commission. In the current planning section, I do land use reviews of our ongoing and incoming projects that we receive from the private sector. With the Historic Commission, I tend to make sure the meeting is scheduled and we have our agenda and the grant work that goes into backing our funding and stuff like that. I am a transplant from Texas. I've been in the area here for 3 years now. Wanted to live on the West Coast my whole life, narrowed it down to Oregon through college, Eugene specifically. Here I am. I absolutely love it.
Great. My name is Gary Jones. I'm a new resident. We bought a house here in March a year ago, so definitely on a learning curve as far as what's happening in Springfield. But I walk a lot, and I've been around particularly the western end of town, and really I've enjoyed seeing what's going on with the Washburn district, and I've read some of the background on that. I'm also interested in the mill race as a kind of a keystone on some of the history. I'm a retired lawyer, so in Washington State, no longer a danger here to causing some trouble, but had a lot of experience with nonprofits and special purpose districts, things like diking districts, drainage districts, water districts, so I'm curious about that sort of stuff, and also civic organizations. I'd like to see some history done on some of the important civic organizations, maybe whether it's got a cemetery or a whatever, charitable project, you know, things that have some depth of history in the town.
Online folks?
Yeah, we'll start with Commissioner Howard.
Okay, my name is Adam. I've been on the committee for a couple of years. Prior to that, I was a member of the Historic Museum Committee. So finding opportunities to work together is certainly something that I would look forward to, and it's certainly something that I like to find more opportunities to do so. Outside of my work on this committee, I am an accounting coordinator for Royal Caribbean International. So if you learn more about cruising, let me know.
Commissioner Howard, or Helmer, excuse me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlotte Helmer. This is the beginning of my second term on the commission. In my day job, I'm also an architectural historian. I specifically work on adapting historic places for ADA accessibility for the Oregon Department of Transportation. I grew up out by Mount Pisgah, so I have really been happy to be able to to make a home here, make a career here, and be a part of the Historic Commission and other just aspects of our community life here. Lived and worked other places and made my way home again. I, in particular, I'm a graduate of the Historic Preservation Program at the University of Oregon, which has recently moved back from their Portland campus to the Eugene campus. So one of the things I'm looking forward to is whether we will, in the near future, have opportunities to work closely with historic preservation students again. And then the last thing I'll mention is that before I started, pushing papers in state government, I worked in the nonprofit sector, planning and sort of co-leading hands-on historic preservation projects that engaged volunteers. So I don't get to do that kind of thing so much anymore, but I still really have a lot of admiration and appreciation for people who swing a hammer to restore historic places. That's me.
And then I believe on the phone we have Commissioner Fribley. Is that correct?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hello, hello. Okay. So hi, sorry. I am actually coming back from a meeting on a 1910 farmhouse down in Cottage Grove. And I'm going to try to get there in person. So I am, yes, maybe slightly zooming while driving. But I am an architect. My office is downtown. We don't necessarily have formal historic preservation training, but we have kind of carved out a niche doing a lot of historic reuse in downtown, and we've done a lot of the revitalization work on Main Street. And what else? I'm on the museum committee also, and part of the Springfield Renaissance Development Corp, which also works on revitalization work in downtown and facilitates the Oregon Main Street program in Springfield's participation in that program. I think that's enough.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you all for doing brief introductions. I know that was not on the agenda, but I figured we'd have some new faces, some returning faces, so it wouldn't hurt. Moving to approval of the agenda, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I just want to correct that 546 7th Street violation. We did receive the application for that. So if we want to discuss that under our applications, we can.
We'll take the 546 7th Street violation under the historic land use applications without objection. All right, without objection, the agenda is approved with the amendment. Moving now to our guest from Julie. Willamette Window Restoration.
Yes, great, thank you. Let's see, I'm not exactly sure where to start, but I think possibly with the city annexing the Brombaugh building into the city of Springfield this last few weeks. I'm not sure if that is a connection we want to make with this event, but it is a historic building. I know that
I don't know where that is. Could you?
yeah, it's on Brooklyn Street, 325, let's see, I can point it
Is
out.
that one that's way down almost by the river?
Willamette Window Restoration, type that in.
Is that where the guy who makes the
Pipe organs.
the organs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
It is really, it's really a beautiful building. I kind of wanted, yes.
My annexation.
Yeah, sure. So you're involved in that too, Tom?
I am. Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, so you would probably have a better idea of the political playing field in this one, but I was thinking that it's a great building. I don't know what will happen to the building after this area is developed. It may be gone, but I think it's an important piece of Springfield history, and it would be great if we could have like a hands-on workshop in that building. That was one thought I had. Another thought I had, and this might be for future years, just because of timing, the Chamber of Commerce building, that might be a building that we could actually have like a weekend workshop that you guys could maybe sponsor, and the attendees could actually learn how to pull the sash, do some work on restoring the sash, re-roping things, things like that. But again, that would be more long-term planning. And I've got some ideas on that as well. I brought a document here. I just roughed this up a few minutes before I came in, and I'll hand them out here. I'm proposing May 17th, because it's not Mother's Day or Memorial Day. There isn't a marathon will have been done, finished already. That's in April. So that's one thought I had. I'm thinking noon to 4. The help that I thought that I would seek from you guys would be possibly, is there a way you could market this and register people? I'm thinking, that's up for discussion. I haven't done one of these. I have a lot of colleagues that have, so I've talked a little bit to folks, and as you see, I came up with like a 4-hour period, noon to 4 is what I'm thinking. I have a demo sash, a double hung sash that has 2 styles of storms that I put on there so that people could see that. It has traditional weather stripping on it. Also have an exploded kind of poster view of a double hung sash. So I thought we would talk about that.
When was this building constructed and what was its purpose, I guess?
It was constructed in the 70s. I'm not exactly sure the date. I'll get
Yeah,
that.
well, no, I don't.
Yeah, but I do know it's past that 50-year mark, which would make it historic. And the reason that it's important, I think, to Springfield is because of the craftsman that worked in the building, John Brombaugh. It's a very unique building. It's a very, it's got 2 stories, and each floor, it's all Doug-fir floors on both stories. There's one area in the building that it doesn't have a second floor, which is where all the pipe organs were built. So
That are literally all over the world.
yeah,
They're
all over the
like
world. He was
really
quite-
famous.
quite an amazing person. He's still living. I think he's almost 100 now. I think he's 98. But it's a unique opportunity. We can focus on that aspect in our marketing or not. That's kind of up to you guys. And I'm not sure, Tom, you probably have a better finger on the pulse of planning down there. Maybe they don't want to maximize the vision down there.
Yeah, I haven't seen any concepts so far. It
Yeah.
is part of a master plan area
Yeah,
that is going to go through a redevelopment. I don't know exactly what all's going to be retained in that process at this point.
right.
It pretty much, the annexation area was from Camp Putt over to about this area. These people did not go in on that annexation process. So everything kind of here in the middle, We did have a couple historic assets, at least on the state level. We recorded those, we took pictures and everything before the demos because they were all very bad shape. And then this structure was the other house out there. That was very cool design. I went in it, I again took pictures and everything. That was also part of that demo process for the redevelopment out here. So once we get a little bit further along, I think now that annexation is done, that's kind of our next step, is waiting on the private sector to bring in their master plan
Right.
request and application and everything, which will be a multi-phased kind of development.
Yes.
So
So maybe that piece of it is more something that I could just share with people.
Sure,
This is a
sure.
great, asset for the city, that may not be here forever.
Right,
but
right.
Here we are now.
Yep.
So
Say marketing, what do you, to
Just
encourage people, I mean,
the
keep
word
it,
out, yeah, just get the word out to people that, I know I get a lot of people that stop and take photos of my truck, and I've been trying to tell people, hey, we're gonna have a hands-on workshop in May, it'd be great if you could come, just to capture an audience that I can't. I know that you guys have some requirements for windows in the Washburn district.
We do.
So this would be, a good opportunity for somebody who doesn't, would like to, learn how to take care of their windows. And I'll start very with basic stuff. My plan is to, with the demo sash, I can show them how to re-rope. We'll talk about maintenance issues, the top 5. Here's how you re-rope, and I can demonstrate that. The minor repairs, epoxy, wood repairs, I'll have demonstration. I'll demonstrate how to use a couple of them. We can have a hands-on component if we want, but my point is to point people in the right direction of materials to use. Let's see. I thought I would define what a historic sash is and talk about the energy efficiency of it. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misinformation out there. So I'd love to have an opportunity to share with people what they can do to make it more energy efficient. We'll talk about embodying energy and the lifespan of a historic sash. And we'll maybe do some math on,
Values.
yeah, how long will it actually take to pay off your investment of vinyl windows and in energy savings? We'll talk about some things like that. I'll do like a brief review of lead paint because that's always a concern. We'll talk about friction surfaces and how you get rid of that concern. Even if you can't afford to take all the paint off, there's some things you can do to limit that lead dust. Setting glass in putty. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but if I can teach them how to remove a sash and remove the glass from it, they can get a glass size. I can cut them glass, another glass shop can cut them glass. And again, I really want to share with people, this is the right putty to use in this climate. This is the right paint. Here's how you find out if it's, if you're using oil-based or water-based paint, basics. And you guys are welcome to be involved as much on the day of as you would like, or not at all.
so you want a day that, to have this event?
Yes,
words.
yes, I'm proposing it's on May 17th, but if that's not a good day for the city, I'm open to others.
And you're trying to get a number of people.
Yeah, I'm thinking we have, I'm not sure if you guys have any visions. I'm thinking it might be best to limit it to 8 to 10. I know places like in New England where they have, everywhere you look is a historic structure. That's a pretty common number to have, and I often see them advertising, we've got 2 slots left.
So they're 8 to 10 people.
Yes, or we could say anybody's welcome. It's a big space. I'll probably have 1 or 2 employees working with me that day. You know, I'm willing to do that. I feel like it's a pretty, this is not a rigorous schedule for me to, you know, put together. So I feel like, if anybody has thoughts on that, that'd be great.
I'm just trying to think, we have at least, what, maybe 3 weeks before the 17th
Yeah.
or so. From a marketing and advertising standpoint, if you have a flyer,
Yes.
maybe, because we could put that up on the website. We have the display case out here.
Yep.
That we could do, as far as getting the word out there, and that would be no cost to us.
Okay.
And then any further involvement, commissioners can speak about
Sure.
that.
Great.
But yeah, if you could send
I will
me
get you
anything
Something
as far as an
tomorrow.
advertisement,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'll get that submitted out and we can get that up at least,
Great.
to get the word going. And then I think in the next couple weeks, you'll have a good gauge on how many responses we're getting,
Yeah.
if you have sign up information on there perhaps.
Yeah. Can they sign up through you somehow? Or-
Don't know. One, I don't know the actual process for that, how we would be able to take a sign up if they just email me, but then like the
then you've got
coordination
it.
of that. The flip side too is the, like, our footing or legal aspects. I have no idea on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the logistics and then there's the legals. So I don't know.
Could you have your email address and have them contact you if they want to
Yeah.
sign up?
Yes.
Yeah. Cause then you're retaining the book, you know, like the reservations,
Yeah.
let's say, to have your contact info to hold that. And then, it's going directly to you. We're not playing
Right.
the middleman on that
Right.
part.
Right.
I think that would work. That would be little obligation as far as the city's part to, I can grab the key from the city manager's office, open up the case, put the flyer there, ask our people in-house to publish the flyer on the city website.
Okay, great.
And then we've got a good start at least. And then, of course, if you want to, area businesses, anything like that, put up flyers out there in, as far as that goes. I think that would be pretty good coverage then at that point.
And I can announce it, because I always give a staff report on the meetings that I go to, and I'm happy to announce it at the city council meeting.
Oh, that would be super. That would be great.
That would be great.
Yeah, how about the library and the museum? Are those
Oh,
places?
Yeah.
Certainly put in a museum, put in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna chime in on that. If
Yeah, I
can.
don't
So,
know.
Go ahead, Commissioner Fridley.
so the museum is obviously very overlappy in terms of like area of interest. And the museum is part of the library, and the library has the Friends of the Library, which is a really great group who's super organized.
Oh,
And they do a newsletter, and there's monthly newsletter, and they have a really pretty broad reach. So it definitely seems like a good path. I mean, I guess legal wise, I'm not the person to chime in on this, but I think a question to raise here is whether Historic Commission can be, should be, wants to be a co-host of this event. I realize as a co-host that opens us up, because we're part of the city, to legal challenges, but I feel like it's also a really amazing way for Historic Commission to offer value to the residents of the Washburn in a formal way. And with that said, we have the resource available of doing a mailing out to all the Washburn residents, and that seems like it would be very worthwhile in terms of reaching all of the residents, having them understand, that it's just a really good way to very informally remind them that their windows are important in their homes, and that they need to be thinking about, carefully about how they treat them and that they're not supposed to replace them with vinyl. And also that we're providing support for that, you know. But in a timeline where we were to send out a mailer, it would probably need to be a little bit of an extended, slightly more extended than a few weeks.
I
But it
feel
would
like
get a broader reach for the event.
I feel like I should change the date already, and I'm happy to push it even into June, if that makes more sense.
I think it does.
Yes, yes.
Personally, selfishly, it makes sense for me because I'm not available.
Because that's our target audience.
Yeah, as long as we have money in the budget. I know we have money for mailing. I don't exactly know the line item.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know
and
off
we
the top of
haven't
my
used
head.
it.
We just did one for the Washburn survey.
Mhm,
But not to say we can't do another.
Sure.
Just check the amount there. I don't know how much that cost for the last mail outs.
One other quick
Yes,
question.
sure.
So this building we want to preserve, you right?
I'm not sure, and that's why I also wanted to talk to you, and especially you, Tom, in planning. I don't know that the city wants to preserve it. I'm not even sure if they want other people to know about it. But also do know that the mayor at least is very proud that that's a part of the history of Springfield.
Yeah, I can reach out to Ally Camp. She is the economic development manager and kind of seats or runs, I don't know how it works, the Springfield Economic Development Agency, CEDA. That's who is the large landowner, also with Roth and Roth LLC out there, which I think is largely just Roaring Rapids and that stuff. But yeah, that property did come up as City of Springfield owned. So I don't know, again, in the grand scheme
Right.
of the master plan, what the plans are for that building. I can reach out to Ally, you can reach out to Ally, however you would want to coordinate that for that building itself. ALLIE, Ally Camp.
He's actually a client, so I will.
Yeah, I
reach
think
out
she
to
has
her.
a historic house.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
So I'll reach out to her. And regardless, it will be at this space because it's my shop, but I will just ask her about that. If how prominent do they?
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
Great.
That's really good. Yep.
Excellent.
Commissioner Helmer.
I'm going to sign off in just a minute here, but I wanted to say that I'm very happy to volunteer to help out with this event in whatever way, whether it's carrying flyers around town or being in an inbox for those registrations or, you know, whatever I can do to help. I'm very happy to do it. So sign me up.
So, so this workshop,
Yes.
it would be for people, especially in the Washburn district, who want to learn about the window. That's what you're trying to do. That's a good.
Absolutely. It seems, I've realized that people who have historic windows, not all of them, but many are just not even sure how do I approach it? It doesn't open, it's probably never open, so we just don't open them.
Yeah.
So, I just want to show people it's not that hard. I can help you with the few maintenance concerns you might run into, provide them with, the right methods, materials, things like that, and a person they can contact for, consult.
And I can tell you what I know. What is a historic stash? You know.
Yeah, what's
That's
that?
the historic stash.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know what I should, I guess, but.
Component of a window.
How would I define it? It has to be 50 years old.
Oh, okay.
So that would make it historic. It doesn't have to be, a certain style. It doesn't have to be Queen Anne.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have to be in a house that's listed on the National Register.
Okay.
That basically defines it.
And my Hayden home probably doesn't have any historic.
Probably not, probably
But
not.
it's got a garbage disposal.
Yes. That's,
How about this? I'm gonna give you my email. We'll find a date that works better, that's further out.
yes, I love it.
And then we can come back here and figure out mailings and what we're gonna do to advertise the event.
Excellent. Wonderful, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Hey,
it.
Julie.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Great. Thank you.
Really, your book?
Oh, yeah. I also, we just had a conference, window conference. The Window Preservation Alliance came to the West Coast for the first
I'm in
time.
Astoria.
Victoria.
Yes, it was my last board meeting and we ended it here on the West Coast. It was really great. But I wanted to share this with you guys, and a lot of my conversation about energy efficiency comes from this book. This is from two people that were on the board previously. One of them is still on the board, just great information. They've done scientific studies over several years. Anyway, so this is a great resource for us here in Springfield. Anyway, great, you guys. Thank you. And I will be in touch. All right.
All right, moving down to historic land use applications, 546 7th Street.
So, our former staff liaison, Drew,
Huh.
walks by, he walks through the historic district here on his way to work and came across this house, 546, that had workers ready to go, stacks of hardy plank siding ready to go. It sounds like they've already, and I haven't been by it yet, but stripped off the siding. It's a primary significant contributing structure. And from what I understand, that was the original wood siding. According to the homeowner, who apparently I spoke with last year or the year prior, when they got the house, they were fully aware that historic review would be needed. They were misled by their contractors stating that they got all the permits necessary. Our
Mhm.
building department does not require permits for replacing siding. So that was a flat out non-truth. Because there are no permits other than the historic commission review that they would need to go through. There's two. So, when Drew saw this, he let me know. We elevated on her. Everything going on, we found contact information for the owners, we got in touch, they promptly got back to me. Were aghast that they did not have the permits and things needed for this. And again, having the siding already taken off, they're in a pickle. So, according to.
Technical term?
Yeah, that's a technical planning term. The siding yielded way to the studs and insulation and then drywall. So there was no vapor
Okay.
barrier, there was no undersheathing or anything going on there. So it
Come off anyway.
probably needed to come off anyways. It was likely lead-based paint, which they said, the contractor said was done correctly.
Yeah,
I have my suspicions it wasn't, because it was done so quickly. They apparently did not have any tents or any other protective things going on out there that would be needed to take care of lead-based paint on siding. So that's where we are right now. We have their application in. And, removing and replacing 1,836 square feet of siding, which to me is the entire thing.
sure.
It doesn't sound like there's any other work as far as the footprint, windows, additions, or anything like that. It is all siding.
Well,
So, yes.
Are we sure that the windows they don't want to change around?
Some of the windows, I think,
Look vinyl?
yeah,
Uh,
are
I don't
vinyl.
think they're
They're already there, especially these over here, and we can even go back into other dates to try to see.
They're a long time.
So previous owners,
Sure.
maybe 2008, we've got originals still there. But definitely we're seeing some vinyl now by 2011. So that's where we're at. That's where the owner's at. The contract, I don't know if it's here in this packet, is to the tone of $62,000 of hardy plank.
So what did they do with the original siding?
Oh, yeah, you walked in just before that.
I
or
think
just
I was
before.
listening in.
From.
Like they abated it with lead, but they just pitched it.
They even abated it
Yeah,
of
yeah.
lead, it went straight to a landfill, it sounds. Cause of course, our standards and guidelines point out saving it where we can. But otherwise replacing it like for like. So the owner is aware, after I spoke with them on the phone and they were distraught, of course. That, wood siding wherever you can find it. I think they had mentioned Jerry's has wood component that could fit, I believe. Well, I can't tell. Jenna, you probably know better let me get to a better image. If it's lap or kind of joined, but that's what we would be going for replacement. So since this literally just came in, I can't remember if it was this morning. I entered it this morning. It's been a blur. And we were having our meeting. I wanted to get it teed up now. If our next step is sending this to our architectural historian, consultant to do their review. We haven't had one yet
Yeah.
on this grant cycle, so we might as well. Yeah, that's where we're at. I think
Because we'll be
she'll
with
get
them.
feedback.
Yeah, because we'll be within the timeline for response on the permit. If it came, well, when did it come in?
This
Mhm.
morning.
This morning, okay. Yeah, so we'll be within the timeline if we review it next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have to do too lengthy. Of course, incorporating the consultant's comments on this, if commission is adopting those comments or if there is any changes or anything like that, we would need to see them first. And then I can incorporate those into my report. I asked the owner what their plans are, if they're still living in it while it doesn't have siding. It sounds like that's the case. So as far as an expedient review of this, we can get it to our consultant as quickly as possible. I don't know, of course, what their timeline is, workload, et cetera.
This is coming to the nicer season.
Yeah, exactly. There's that. Although I guess we might have some rain this weekend, so we'll see. But yeah, so, again, in all likelihood, it sounds like it was going to come off anyways. It just would have been nice to retain any,
Salvageable.
solid salvageable pieces, to either incorporate in. We do at least have imagery here. We have, they're not beholden to the color scheme either, but certainly kind of a more traditional, muted colors and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's our application for the month. We'll see if we get any others to bring to the next meeting. But yeah, this one was one that was quite alarming, just hearing how quickly things were moving along on site. We were able to get in contact. We got it wasn't a stop work order, but we, really struck some fear into them about like, this needs to go through review and you just stripped all the siding off. So, Well-
What happens to them if they had told you to basically pack sand and they had their contractor continue doing the work?
We've had folks previously, the one I'm thinking of was they actually came to this group and sought approval. And they initially sought vinyl windows. We told them they cannot have vinyl windows, and so we approved wooden windows. And then they installed vinyl windows anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most similar that I can think of. Usually people they aren't gonna tell code enforcement, to, bugger off or whatever.
We
And
ended
so
up taking.
code enforcement ended up issuing per day fines until they remediated the window.
Oh, wow.
So that's an extreme case. I mean, that's,
yeah, we hope to not get there, and the owner is certainly, ready to do whatever is needed, but given the contract they struck up already with the contractor and the cost of that, and then now basically, I don't know if you can return hardy plank or how that stuff works, but I don't
The contractor.
It's not
Yeah.
already on the house though, or is it?
I don't think so. I will drive by this on the way home today because I do need to see it myself. And if any did go up, they would need to take it off and replace it with the wood siding that they're going to end up purchasing as well. On top of that, we have our current historic review fees. This one came out to just over $3,000 when it used to be an $80 application. So
Is that still on the docket for June?
yes, that will be changed. I think across the board for historic applications, it's gonna be actual cost of service.
So will these, so this came in today and they can't do any replacing until this gets approved?
That's correct.
And of course, with the weather, but hopefully we can get this done, is what you're saying.
Well,
Yeah.
is there anything else other than just adding the wooden siding?
Not that's
Replacing.
been proposed.
Okay.
So as far as the application goes, it is only for the siding.
I don't know that our consultant, well, I'm looking to the architects in the room, more than the me side of the room. Do you think she's gonna have much to say about replacing it with like style?
If we're replacing it with like style, like that's all we really can do at this point.
Yeah.
If the original's gone. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt just for, to have her give a final blessing,
Sure.
but I mean, I don't know that she's gonna have a different proposal than that.
I think if there was some pieces being retained and like how to dovetail all that in and mix the components and stuff like that, they would have a lot more to say on it, on that process and, doing it properly, but seeing as how sounds like, again, it's all stripped off already, then we're just at a basic construction of putting up siding. So I think as commission or commissioners, we can have y'all weigh in on that for the review. Not to belabor it for just
Mhm.
the time component here for them getting their approval. So I defer.
That seems fine to me. We need to move. Do we need a formal motion?
Yeah, let's do that. I would accept, a motion to, provide our comments that we are, supportive of replacing, this siding with like style wooden siding. If anybody would like to make that motion.
So moved.
Or a second.
I'll second, yeah.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, that the commission is supportive of replacing, or of this property going forward with its plan to replace, with like style wooden siding. Is there any debate or discussion?
Maybe just an add that any trim components that are removed as part of that, because that just trim is going probably over some of that siding, like that is retained if it still exists and replaced.
Usually there's one side of a building
Yeah.
like this that would be much more degraded than others. And so I guess it's not the purest point of view, but if you could have the right stuff on 3/4 of it and something that wasn't maybe so good, but was responsive to the degrading effect of weather and sun and whatever wind. I guess I wouldn't feel badly about that. Especially if they preserved, what they could, as.
I mean, generally that is, like with the windows, for example, people are allowed to do like additions and non-original windows on non-primary facades, like
Yeah.
on-street strip facing facades. But with respect to whether, they've ripped all the siding off, do they put hardy on the back and wood on the front, or do we just ask them to do all wood? I mean, they've already
Yeah.
taken it all off and they're already in the process.
I'm not against
It's
going.
lasted
forward.
100 years, right? Like,
Also, have they taken off one side of the siding? Or they've taken off all of the siding on their house and they have no siding on their house right
I
now?
think that's the case.
Okay, thank you. I had misunderstood that point earlier.
So, yeah, Drew caught it when the crew was there starting
Sure.
work that morning to strip it all off and they made quick work of it. It's
Deed restrictions on the title report that let them know that they're not allowed to do.
historic.
It's part of their zoning packet in the title report.
Okay.
Although I guess I don't know how detailed the restrictions would be in the title report,
I'm not sure either.
but it would tell them that they're in the historic overlay for sure.
I mean, I think this is one of the good reasons that like with Julie's proposal, by doing a mailing, it's just a really good reminder to every Washburn resident, like, hey, don't forget, these are important and you're required to not mess it up.
And I mean, I, for what it's worth, I feel very bad for these folks.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like they tried to do it right. I generally assume that people are telling me the truth when they tell me stuff like that. And it sounds like, these folks, through no fault of their own, ended up doing this. And so trying to be very, forgiving with them, but also recognizing, of course, that like, it's a historic asset that we can't get back. So.
Most of the residents in the Washburn are good stewards and they want to be good stewards. They're just not always informed.
Sure.
Or like, they just don't know, right?
Not to mention that this was happening at the same time that our resurvey of
Yeah.
Washburn, we had our technician out there, so I don't know if this was a address that they were in phase 2 of our resurvey, or if that was surveyed in phase 1, but it was in the middle of actually changing as they were doing it, so, yeah.
Unless there's anything else from anyone, we'll go to a vote. Well, we don't need to roll call that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. All right, the ayes have it. We'll approve as the motion was stated. Moving along to the rest of our agenda. So we've got 627 B Street, which is an ADU from Jenna.
I know. So I don't even know how the best way to incorporate this into this platform is, because I definitely have conflict of interest. So just disclosing that. But an owner approached me. I guess I don't have total conflict. We haven't signed a contract yet. So, but owner approached me. She owns this home that's cute. It's a primary significant contributing home. It's in a crazy, if you could call it urban, it is in an urban area of Springfield. I just want to say it feels urban, which sounds, unusual maybe, but yeah, that's it. So it's right behind, like, butting up against the back of the school district building. Yeah, so there's the school district building and the city hall is just there to your left down at the bottom. So this little strip of houses is like right adjacent to this big 2-story block of commercial.
Where's the house?
The house is at the top.
Middle plot right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so that tiny little square in the back, that one is a shed.
Okay.
The owner would like to turn that into an ADU.
Is it a historic resource?
This is my question.
Oh.
So it is a 212 square foot shed. It is not necessarily noted on the Parks Registry. It talks about a carport on the side of the existing house that was, oh no, that's not even on this one, that's on a different part. Was not mentioned in the original application.
Okay.
And then the state inventory mentions a side carport and patio built in 1963, but doesn't mention the shed. On the back, it mentions the shed, but just as an associated resource.
Okay.
But then if you look at the shed, which I can pass these
Oh,
around.
wow.
It is, I'm gonna say it's like T111, it's real flat. It doesn't look like the house at all, except for the windows, which are adorable, which I think somebody yanked out of the house and probably put in the shed at some point off of the back of the house. So, in a perfect world, maybe we can like repurpose those in the cute little ADU situation, but, feel free to pass. Whatever. Go there, I can go there.
Okay, so associated with.
However, I would speculate that this shed was built in the 50s, 60s, something,
Sure.
which theoretically makes it historic.
Well, it satisfies the time.
It satisfies-
element of
yeah.
historic,
Right.
yes.
But I don't think it has any historic significance in terms of the original builder. It doesn't match the house other than those 2 windows, right? So my question is, as a non-commissioner, just an outside person approaching this project, do I need to use this building could I build a new building in this footprint, which is what, you know, kind of, I think would probably be the best scenario for the ADU, just in terms of like puzzling within the janky framing and lack of insulation and lack of J-bolts and all the things that you get in a shed. Trying to make a house out of that is hard. It's very cost ineffective, whereas using the footprint and just putting new studs with insulation and all of the things obviously is more straightforward. But I'm also totally not opposed to making it work. And then if we rebuilt it, obviously, then we could do a roof that more matches the style of the house. We could also still keep the same existing framing and put a different roof on it. Basically, I'm trying to decide if this shed is sacred in any way.
I guess I will start with reminding everyone at home for the future that this is an advisory body. So like we don't actually make any determinations. We can make recommendations and tell staff what we think. It is always up to staff what the decision on planning things is. That said, I'm not seeing a lot to suggest that this just like gut check without an application in front of us, without anything else. My gut check is I wouldn't think it was historic in any way. I mean, I think I would treat it basically as if you'd rolled a tough shed up there and wanted to get rid of it. I don't know, staff.
Purely from a staff perspective, I did want to ask thickness of foundation, because I'm sure as you're aware, we get a lot of questions about converting garages, shops, things like that, and the foundation is not built to a residential.
Is not.
thickness.
So it's a slab on grade. I haven't done investigating of how slabby it is. Is it reinforced? Is it 4 inches? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Assuming that that's not the problem. On top of that slab, we have 4-inch concrete block.
Yeah.
With then framing. So we have a curb that's like an 8-inch curb of a 4-inch thick concrete block. So not a very wide block, which means there's not a lot of room for that to be attached to anything, the ground or the building.
Yeah.
And then 3.5-inch studs, which don't fit insulation. That's enough to be code compliant. And then, you know, whatever the roof is the roof and we can deal with it. We can frame it full of insulation, or put insulation on top. We could wrap the exterior of this thing with insulation if we needed to make it more insulative, or the interior with rigid or something, but we can make it work. I just don't know that it's worth making it work because it doesn't seem sacred. But on the other hand, the Washburn, or our group here has talked about the need to do a survey of accessory buildings throughout the Washburn district, and we have not yet done that.
I don't quite, the last to know always about the spatial relationship here, but if the house is in the front.
Yeah.
How's there even any room for this thing in the back? I don't quite.
Yeah.
If you look here, the house is, probably set back 10 or 15 feet from the front curb. And then I would guess there's about 45 feet at the back, just my.
From the house to the alley?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's probably 100.
It is an alley, not a street that's behind this.
Yeah.
And then there's like a covered porch is that one, I'll just point. This is like a covered porch, just like a very, whatever, simple frame.
Okay, yeah.
And this is a yard, and then this is our little building. And then there's all this extra parking back here, which is interesting.
Tom's gonna prove me right or wrong here.
Yeah.
10 feet there to the structure from the property line, between structure and house, assuming that's just an eve, 25.
Very
Her
good.
guess of 45 was. I
Yeah,
think,
45.
Yeah, or 45 there, yeah.
The alley,
The little shed is 14 by 16.
52.
Ooh.
Then the price is right. So I think without the nexus of it being tied to any kind of historic sense, from a staff perspective, we would accept an application for a new ADU there. Especially seeing as how the slab probably isn't up to residential standards.
And just from like a historic commission policy perspective, we've, just generally encouraged ADU development in the city. I think that's consistent with council directive, with state policy directive, and so. What else I'll give?
Thank you for the gut check. That's kind of what I just wanted to suss out here, make sure everybody felt good about. But it wasn't like good to anyone. Anyone's gonna cry. Sorry.
Well, do we know when this?
Those windows are very pretty though.
They are. The house itself was built in 1910.
This doesn't look like 1910.
No, it
Yeah.
definitely is not. I mean, it's got, well, I mean, the siding could be later, but it's 211 siding. I mean, the concrete block is definitely not from 1910.
Yeah, no, let's see.
There's probably been a lot of
Not even
buildings there
included
over the years.
I mean, there probably was, maybe there was a
Wouldn't be.
1910 shed back there at some
Yeah.
point, but I don't think this is it.
Might have been the woodshed or something, yeah.
Mhm. And then is that artificial turf?
It is artificial. That is from 1910. She's actually planning to pull that out.
It turns out landscaping isn't covered in the historic review guide.
Yeah. It's not a primary. It's not a primary.
All right.
I love it.
Yeah,
I did my whole backyard.
Yeah.
Fake lawn.
I think if she
Best.
redid it, it needs refreshing,
You
I'd
what?
say.
I did my whole backyard in that fake lawn. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Cleaning up poop.
Yeah.
dog poop.
So easy.
All right, we will move along and we'll keep it with Jenna here for historic awards.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about this
Okay.
year's historic awards?
I feel great about that, but
Okay.
I've not started on it.
Okay,
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to tee
yeah.
that up, because I know we're kind of getting to that time where we
Yeah.
start talking about.
We were just talking about it at the museum committee last week too, so. Yeah, I think as long as we're not planning to like do any dramatic changes to the structure or the words, like we can just regurgitate all the content for the application nomination forms and all the things from last year
Okay.
and just roll with it.
I think that sounds good to me.
I was gonna rush
Unless any-
Charlotte in.
unless folks
unless
have any questions.
Anybody else is dying to be on the committee.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, it's-
Charlotte would be good.
She's been on it
We
before.
had Patty and.
Patty's on, and Stacy, but she's
Stacy,
she termed out.
Museum, gotcha, yeah,
So,
gotcha.
yeah, but we've got Patty
Yeah.
and I can grab Charlotte again. I'm sure I can post her.
Yeah, that'll work.
We do that as a
Everybody else is
sub,
invited.
we do that as a subcommittee of this.
It's
Yes.
a joint subcommittee.
A joint subcommittee.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Um,
If anyone has any problems getting on that's been there previously, let me know.
Sounds good.
I don't think there will be, but.
just let me know when you want to start that. We'll get our first meeting scheduled and go from there.
Moving right along to the Indigenous Histories Project, another one with the library. Any updates, Tom? I don't know, it might just be coming along.
Updates, yeah, it's coming along. We have had some concerns that we're getting outside of the scope of what the
Okay.
grant intends. I think broader funding that Dr. Lewis is receiving supports all of Lane County. He is getting Lane County money along with our funds, and I don't know what else for his 3-phase project. Phase 1, for us to get it started, was coming from us, like 80% us and 20% Lane County. It sounds like he is getting to the end of that phase where, compiling, grabbing, getting everything he can. Jenna, you've been on those calls too. Last meeting, we had like a side chat with Mindy and Emily and me and Monica, just expressing a little bit of concern that we're looking at a lot of things here. Well, what we need for our reporting purposes is Springfield centric, which can be up the McKenzie Valley a little bit. I think what we're shooting for right now, we're drafting an email to send to him that is sensitive and inclusive to what, the end product we're trying to get, but having like, as they're pulling multitudes of photos and things, like make a Dropbox that's specific to Springfield. So that all of that can be what I send for grant reporting to show SHPO that, hey, here's what came across from the money you gave us for this project. As long as we're staying in that, everything's okay. It's just when we're pulling stuff from Cottage Grove, or when he's pulling stuff from Cottage Grove, Florence, elsewhere in Lane County, it doesn't really pertain. And we did have a little bit of discussion early on that there was no defined boundary at the time, and especially if we're talking indigenous histories here, up to settlement, let's say. Springfield wasn't a thing yet even. So how do we recognize places of things that were not defined by settlement yet, but that he may be able to identify, or the broader indigenous community to identify, that is specific to Springfield. So we're just trying to stay within the scope right now. I have received one invoice. I still need to get that through finance so he can get reimbursed. I have not received other invoices yet as far as the time that he has spent along with his associate Shara to be doing all of this research compilation right now. So that's the gist of the update on that. It's still coming along. Of course, we won't see a finished product just yet until, I guess, all phases are complete. But for our purposes to report or give a progress report to SHPO, I might want to have some photos or a little synopsis of, or maybe even Dr. Lewis could put that together, a synopsis of what he found Springfield centric. So.
Or at least it could be, the angle could be taken that even if the pictures aren't specifically, a lot of them Springfield, that, these cultural influences were brought to Springfield or something, right? Like, or they are related to what happened. I have had the same takeaways, though. I'm like, okay, this is all cool.
Yep.
But like, we had sent him a very lengthy, like, bullet point list of questions that we've had working on the atlas that are like very targeted about, like, kind of specific topics or facts, or we loosely know there was a temporary encampment here, as he's kind of hunting, could he find more specificity on any of these topics, just to kind of help maybe with a little bit of those more Springfield centric points. But I think one of the positives, even if we don't get as much targeted content as we're hoping for, one of the takeaways is that he's identified a bunch of like archives that we haven't necessarily tapped before in some of our research. So just knowing that those exist, like, sometimes that's hard to even just figure out, like, oh, I should go look at this pile. If I look up this record number, there's, 17 binders full of stuff, but I didn't even know to look for that record, right? So I think there's some usefulness there. But yeah, all the pictures are cool, but you're like, oh, but what about Springfield? It's like, I don't know where this is. We're like, well, the Google says it's down by Cottage Grove. You're like, but he's an amazing historian. And but he's not super familiar with Springfield. So he doesn't have the, like, immediate intuition kind of about what things are specific to here and how narrow that focus, I guess, really.
Is this related to the illuminations program with the?
Well,
Sort of.
Tangentially, yeah, sort of.
So the library approached us right when they were about to put out their illumination for this year, which is about Indigenous folks in Springfield. And there's kind of been this push to identify more firmly Indigenous history generally throughout. There's a Lane County work group. I think there's somebody in Eugene it might even be the former staffer from this body. And then here in Springfield as well. And so we were trying to support that. And half of our funding comes from the State Historic Preservation Office, which mostly does block granting. They manage the granting from the federal government and the National Historic National Historic Preservation Office.
Yeah, Department of the Interior.
Yeah, the Department of the Interior. And so those grants come to the state divvies those up every year through the State Historic Preservation Office, and we have a chunk of them. that runs, that funds this group and partially funds Tom
Okay.
For the work I'm doing.
for the work you do here.
And we have a budget that
Yes.
outlines different.
If we don't, he'll have to go back to Texas.
Yeah, it's true.
It's
It's for current planning.
I don't understand why somebody from the library doesn't do this instead of you. I mean, you're in planning.
Oh.
I don't understand why it's like two jobs.
Well, I guess the charge of the historic commission is to review
Yeah.
planning applications that for Washburn District.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
what you do is a lot more than that.
yeah, for
A
sure.
lot more than what most staff do for their
Yeah.
commissions.
Run it on up the flagpole.
Yeah.
Let me know. Because I'm
Does
happy
does
to.
that make sense? That it seems like if the museum and everything is sort of connected to the library, that it would be like a library staff or that would be more involved with like the committee?
I think the issue comes that while Tom may know some things about educating the public in history generally, I think a library staff person is unlikely to know very much at all about the planning pieces.
Yeah, they would need to though, right? That would go to him.
You mean like split the role or something, like? how-
And running and trying to manage the grant and all of that. I mean. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great.
No, it's an idea.
Yeah.
Well, that, yeah. I
Well,
get
and
it.
especially coming from your perspective too,
Yeah, yeah.
and, you know, being council liaison, those are good questions to be asking from your level.
And being in planning.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Knowing what all goes into it. Yeah. So yeah, that's where we are with the project, with the Histories project. And just to touch on the survey real quick, I put that on the agenda just to give a final. We did it across the 17th and 18th. The technician from WCRA was here, doing the other half. We did last year. The Washburn Historic District hadn't been, surveyed for its assets since 1983 when they did.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the first one.
Actually, 1985, there's a whole bunch of bundles of stuff up there about it from
So,
85, in the centennial. So
We needed an update to see how things have changed through the decades. Yeah, not years, but decades. And we contracted a company out of Portland last year. They did half of the assets, and then on this grant, we were doing the other half of the assets.
that's the phase part,
Yeah. So they completed that on the 18th. We will be getting a draft report. I did touch base with Curry. She was a little concerned that we weren't going to have our products in place to meet the deadline of the grant by July, I think it is. I was back and forth with WCRA and SHPO on that, and WCRA has basically agreed that they will be getting us what we need by our reporting deadlines to keep it all afloat. So I will be expecting a draft report or something back from them. I forget the time frame at this point, but
Sure.
by our deadline.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and then we talked about the violation, and then I had left walking tour on here.
The walking tour update. It's coming along. Well, Selena's not here. I spoke with her about it. She's plugging along, planning to have that done by approximately mid-June. So I think it's in a good spot. I think the only thing might be that the index that we talked about of the terms.
The glossary.
Yeah, sorry,
Mm.
glossary of the terms that are used there. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if there's a glossary in there already, and it's just, okay.
I don't think so.
So that's something that her and I will make sure is moving, because I think she has a list of terms she wants to define. And that's what I have. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we adjourn?
I do.
Mr. Howard?
Jenna, you brought up the atlas. Are you willing to provide an update on that?
Yes, it's still going. We work on it for like 4 hours every Monday night. And every time we touch it, it gets better. But it keeps, we keep every time we look at it, we're like, oh, but we didn't answer this. And so we keep making new holes and we're like, oh, but you know, we need to add a thing. So we add a page, then we shuffle the other pages. So it is just, you know, it is just getting better and better, like a bottle of wine. But no, we're trying to,
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
we do have, so CMO offered to like help with the cost of this first set of publications, and they have a deadline of the end of whatever this fiscal year, so we're trying to be done. And we just need it to be done because it's been going for like 3.5 years,
All right,
but it's glorious.
exciting.
Maybe just a brief, like, high level.
What is it?
For Gary.
It is basically a new history book for Springfield, so it's probably around 240 or so, maybe 50 pages now. We are calling it a historic atlas because there are a lot of maps.
Mhm.
And we were taking the approach, it's got a very sort of geographical approach to how we provide the information. It's not just chronological. So we go sort of chunk by chunk of the city, which really those chunks are sort of laid out in a little bit of a chronological way, but each chunk represents sort of a blossoming of development that is many times geographically based. So downtown started next to the river, can't go across the river, so it goes east. And then like there's another chunk across the river, which is Glenwood, but it's kind of contained, you know, and then Thurston was its own chunk, and then eventually they kind of merged in the middle, and then, you know, we kind of also went north, and like there were ferries, and then there's Doris Ranch, like, I don't know, and hills. So, yes, so it's somewhat geographically, there's 9 chapters, 9 chunks. Plus then chapter 10, which is a timeline, which is gonna be fun. Which will be the basis of so many future trivia nights.
And I will absolutely be buying a copy whenever that thing, a beautiful coffee table book.
I use it, I cheat all the time because I have this like massive pile of paper in my office that is the draft. It's like our master draft. And it's just this like heaping pile. And people, you know, somebody will come in and be asking me some question. People just stop in my office all the time asking me random questions about downtown. And like, I'll be like, oh, well, don't you know that I'll whip this thing out, and like, and then it was this, and then it was this, and it's very useful. It will be very useful for everyone. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So there's 3 of us working on it, for reference. It's a museum committee project. And there's 3 of us. One is Maddie, who's the curator of the museum, and then 2 of us on the committee, and we're making this thing. And we will be sending it out at some point for other people's eyes for some, you know, quick skimming and input, so be ready.
All right.
No pressure, if you're interested.
Unless there are any reattacks on that, we will call this meeting adjourned at 5:44 PM on the 22nd. Thank you all for some wonderful work today. It was a very full agenda and we got through it. So thank you.
Good night, everybody.
We're gonna find out history about the Mount Vernon Cemetery.